Yeah, we're making pretty good progress though. I mean, I like to just move around. I started with like a lot of the littler stuff and just kind of moving, but I may skip over and do a couple of the big pieces here soon just to break up the monotony of some of these little details. Overall, coming out nice so far though. It's like to slowly go through, get a little bit of color on it, and I mean it's really just about the layers, because if you put enough nice layers of color on something, and then come in with the wash at the end or whatever, like it's gonna look awesome. As long as you don't pick like ridiculous colors or paint like super sloppy, it's gonna look good. And then I feel like with terrain too, like it's not you're not like as meticulous when you're painting a model. Um, but obviously, you're still trying to make sure everything looks good. I'd rather like take my time too and do a little bit nicer of an initial paint job and not have as much like going back and fixing spots. But I also have like a pretty good technique for what I paint and in what order. So I try to start with, and this is not like my technique that I invented or anything. I've seen other people do this, and I picked it up like somewhere along the way. I don't know where from, maybe from Duncan. I don't know. But basically, you just like, no, definitely not from Duncan, because I see him sometimes do the opposite. But you want to start with like the deepest, most inaccessible like parts of the model, and paint them first, and typically like paint them with like a darker color. So like if the guy's like pants and like shirt are covered up by like a bunch of armor and you just see like little bits of them kind of poking out, I'll like go in and kind of like pick those details out first. And then like when you're painting like armor plates and stuff like that, it's all like super accessible. You're not like struggling to get to like parts of it, like so you're basically just doing yourself a favor, because you're getting like the stuff out of the way that's hardest to reach, and then that way if you do make little mistakes like as you're like painting everything else, you're essentially just like fixing those mistakes because you're painting over them with stuff that you haven't even painted yet. So it actually like double time like does you a favor, because like you get to fix the mistakes later on, but you're just fixing them by just painting the next step rather than like having to go back and just clean up like some rough lines or anything. So, but I mean that's just that's how I like to do it. Start with like the core, start with the most inaccessible parts, and then just work your way out. And then like me personally, I always paint like my faces or heads like pretty much last, because the last thing I want to do is like make it look all nice and everything, and then somehow like bump it or get a little bit of paint on it or whatever, and randomly just like ruin it after a bunch of work. So I always wait till last and pretty much do like the face. I also like paint dark to light. So like obviously like I was saying down in the cracks and everything like that. But typically with colors I do the same thing as well. I will start with the darker color and then I will slowly work towards like lighter colors. Obviously like I'll put my main color down and then I'll come in with like the washes afterwards, and then I'll come back through with my main color for like an initial highlight, and then I usually do like a blended highlight of like that color mixed with like the next color, maybe like a 50-50 or something like that. And then after that, I will come back with the second color and do like like a real nice highlight. And then that gives like a lot more blended of like a highlight look. I mean, some people want like super strong highlights, and I will do that for people if that's what they want. If I'm matching an army or they like a particular style or whatever. But I like to do like typically like a little more like subtle of highlights. Um, but again, that's just me. And like I do try to like always focus all the attention on like basically like two things. I try to focus on the model's face so that it draws like the attention of the viewer. So like initially you might look wherever, but it's just going to kind of like focus your attention towards like the model's face. And I use like framing techniques and also like lighting with that. And then also I do like really enjoy like doing like OSL lighting and stuff like that. So you'll see a lot of times I will have like bright like focal point as far as like a weapon glowing, or goggles or a scope or something like that, and then I'll have like a little bit of OSL like coming off of it, um, And again, that's just a style that I like, something that I like to do, consistently, and consistently always looks good. Like power weapons, or like I said, like scopes or something like that. It's just cool to do like a little bit of like that lightning effect, and then like do a little OSL if if it pertains. You don't want to take it like overboard though. And there's definitely a fine line with all that stuff, but I mean I like to mix it up. I do like some non-metallic metals and stuff. I did a non-metallic metal Custodes army and sold that one off. That was pretty cool. It's a lot of work though, and doing a whole army like that too is just a ridiculous amount of work. It did look phenomenal on the table though. It was awesome. I mean, I'm a big fan of the non-metallic metal, but again, I would rather just do like a couple awesome models than probably do like a whole army like that, because you'd be just so much better off. I think, spending a ton of time on less models with something like OSL versus just spending like, I don't even know. It wasn't as bad, I guess, because it was Custodes army, but it was like a battalion, so it was still a decent amount of models. But at least a battalion of Custodes is like, you know, it was like 20 guys. As where like if it was like a battalion of something else, it would be like 100. So there's definitely benefits to, if you're gonna do some non-metallic metal, you might as well do a small Custodes army if you're gonna do an army. But again, I would just probably, in the future, I would probably just do like one character or something like that and make him just look like absolutely awesome, rather than try to do like the whole army theme like that, because it really is like, it's just like overboard the amount of extra effort you put into it. And then, especially if you're going to sell the army or whatever, like, I mean, the amount of extra money you have to charge for it to be worth a technique like non-metallic metal or whatever is, I don't know. It's there's not a lot left on the bone there unless you're charging a ridiculous amount for that. If you break it down by hours versus what it would take to just paint up like, you know, Space Marine vehicles or squads or whatever. But I mean, that's part of it too, is like, whether you're doing commissions or you're just painting stuff and then selling it off, like, you need to always be like painting the stuff that's most desirable. So like right now, it doesn't make sense to be just like painting up whatever you want. Right now it makes sense to be like painting up like, important meta stuff, because in the end, like, painting really is like a service, and you're looking for, basically like customers, people that's going to buy it. And the most likely thing somebody's going to buy is something that's like strong in game terms. Even if you're not like a competitive player and you're just playing for fun, like, you're probably, I can't remember what the stats are or whatever, and I'm sure they're like forever changing right now, but the amount of people that's playing like Space Marines right now is, probably higher than it's ever been. As it should be. I mean, Space Marines are supposed to be like, the pinnacle of it all. And, they basically haven't been good since the beginning of 8th edition. So they're well overdue. And that's funny too, because everybody's been like complaining and everything about how good Space Marines are. But it's like, one, they should be awesome. And two, they haven't been good in so long. Like, they deserve to be overpowered for a little bit. Like, let them get a little action. But I'm not going to lie, when the Blood Angels first got redone, and I started my Blood Angels army for that escalation campaign thing, I said I was only going to start Blood Angels if they didn't get a Primarch. Because at the time there was like rumors they were going to do a Primarch, and I was like, man, I don't want to play another army with a Primarch, because I was playing already Ultramarines at the time, and Guilliman was like pretty beast mode, and a lot of people were like kind of salty about him. So, I didn't want it to be like, oh, let me go just chase like the next Primarch. So as soon as I found out they weren't doing a Primarch, whatever, as soon as they redid Blood Angels, I got the Codex, started doing them, and then of course like they just turned out to be like, I mean, amazing. The Smash Captains for Blood Angels are phenomenal. And then I was using actually like a heavy scout list and like Sanguiner to give like the extra attacks and, feel no pain from the banner. And I was using quite a bit of Death Company, but they were kind of like my sacrifice unit. And then I got like some Vanguard veterans with Storm Shields, a couple Thunderhammers. I basically was, my list is like 3 battalions, and it's basically just heroes and scouts and then heavy hitters. But it was good before. It was definitely fun army before. No vehicles in the whole list, but now it's like phenomenal. now like the new shock assault and the doctrines and everything, like I mean, made Blood Angels like, I mean, I knew obviously eventually the doctrines would come, but I mean they're just like, the +1 to wound is just ridiculous first off. And then everybody getting +1 attack, it's like all of a sudden like scouts are like ridiculous now. You could literally have like scouts hit a knight with no weapon, like just with their fists, and their strength 4, so you would need 6s to wound, and then their +1 to wound, so it's on 5s. And then now like your basic scout with like a hand-to-hand combat weapon is like 1, 2, 3, yeah, like 3 or 4 attacks if you got Sanguiner around. I mean, there's just so many like, and like with all the rerolls and everything you can do too, like all of a sudden like scouts are just heavy hitters. And then not to mention like, I mean, I've been really toying lately with the idea of just, you know, busting that 9 points out and just putting a power fist on every one of my scout units. And you know, they're just in your face bodies that you already have to deal with like immediately, while you're like already figuring out how you're going to deal with all like the heavy hitters. So it's definitely a strange situation with the Blood Angels. I'll have to toy around with them a little bit now that they've like, you know, they kind of have like, oh, let me touch up a little spot here. They finalized like a couple of the rules and everything, and like they had, Mephiston was awesome and I was loving him, and he was a little bit strong this edition in the beginning, but when they like upped his points, they did it like too severely. And then you know, they're terrible about that. It's absolutely horrible, because my army before that was like I was using like a bunch of stormtroopers with knights, and like you know, the Castellan, they like took away the 3+ save and then jacked up the points by like 100. And it's like, wait a minute, you do like one or the other, you don't need to like completely ruin the model. But that was kind of a funny situation too, because everybody and their mom had went out and bought a Castellan knight, so it was almost like in their best interest, it was almost in their best interest to go ahead and nerf it, because it's like, all right, everybody already bought as many as they're going to buy, so you know, let's take him out of the meta now, so they got to go buy something else. And you know, although that does kind of suck, if you're a customer, you have to understand that, you know, you are a customer and this is a business, and that's what it's all about. The support and the gaming aspect of it and everything is awesome, but you know, that is all like, that is all beside the fact, because in all reality, like that helps in the long run, but that's not what pays the bills, not for Games Workshop, you know what I mean? So in all reality, like you have to expect that they're going to do what's good for business and for money. And speaking of what's good for business and good for money, I did bust into my Battle Sister box and was very disappointed that the weapon was broken on the Repentia Superior. Her like little whip was broken, um, and like come to find out, apparently it's like a really really common problem. So I don't know what's gonna happen now. I reach out to Games Workshop and let them know, but you know, obviously the box is like sold out. It's not like they just have like extra Repentia Superior like sitting around. So I'm not sure what's gonna happen. They probably are just gonna be like, we're gonna send you something else. Maybe like once the other stuff comes out. I don't know. It's a weird situation, because they said they're like not making any more of that stuff, and then there's like broken models from the kit. I heard some people like weren't getting their canonesses like in the box. I got mine, but you know, obviously gave it away. But oh, and congratulations, Miles. By the way, that thing's on the way. Let me know when you get it. Um, Shoot me a message or hit me up in the comments or whatever. I have a tracking thing for it as well that I never post. I meant to like send that to you, but if you do want that, just let me know and I will send it to you. Um, I did mean to do that and I just forgot all about it. I've been like absolutely like so busy lately. It's absolutely crazy. Um, Not in a bad way though. Just with the holidays have like really crept up really fast, and then it's been super busy with, you know, work and everything, stuff rolling in left and right. And then, you know, I'm like I'm extremely realistic about like time frames for when I deliver you know, commissions and stuff, so I can give people a pretty good idea, and especially with my workload. But around the holidays it's a little different, because like there's so much travel time and I'm going to be away, and you don't know like what like shipping service like UPS status is going to be like.